The entire team at Emsolation want to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We want to recognise that we are recording and telling our stories on the stolen land of our country's first storytellers. We wish to pay our respects to all Wurundjeri elders and ancestors, and to extend that respect to any First Nations peoples who listen to Emsolation. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples' continued connection to the land and waters of this country, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Always was, always will be. Well, hello there and welcome to the Emsolation podcast. My name is Em Russiano. I'm a writer, a singer, a stand-up comedian, a maximalist power queen, a neurodivergent magic brain and a podcaster. And this week, we're giving you part 2 of the creatives behind my stage show, Outgrown. And it is having its Margaret Court Arena return will be 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
2 weeks? Goodness me. We have launched exclusive merch just for the show. We don't have the words Margaret Court written on the merch. No, you don't need to be walking around with that person's name on your person. It's MC Arena. There is a T-shirt with holographic glitter. There's also special edition Letterman jackets. They're amazing. They have a number on the sleeve. We're only making a certain amount, so get in on those if you can still buy them. I don't know if they're available.
Till November 25.
Have a look.
Go to mrussiano.store.
There you go. So grab yourself that. Also, my other merch is on sale, so if you wanted to get some of the lovely green hoodies, you can. This week, though, part 2, you'll be hearing from Ezekiel Fenn, who's my music director, production manager, roadie, all of the things. And we're hearing from Kitty, who did all my set design, and Tamara, who is my costumier. Yeah, it's not a word. Who makes all my costumes. She also does a lot of the drag queens, which is incredible. Yep. Of course I have a drag queen seamstress making my costumes. This is lucky for you to get behind the scenes, behind the curtain, you know, if you are an up-and-coming creator or you're just a sticky book. This is great. I love it. Ben Wosley put it together without my knowledge.
How dare I?
How dare you? I really appreciate it, and I'm very uncomfortable with all the nice things being said. Thank you for being here for part 2. In the sealed section today, though, Michael and I review Gladiator and Wicked. That's right, the Glicked weekend happened. You can only watch or listen to that if you are an extra subscriber, so why not think about supporting this small, neurodivergent-led, female person-infused blood veins. Wow. I'm at the end of my 5th podcast recording now, so consider supporting me and the work that I do. It's like $3 a week. Why wouldn't you do it?
It's even less than that if you want it to be.
It's true.
$1.73.
Oh, God,
Come
I really
on.
should charge more. Yeah. Also, think about coming to my show, Outgrown, at MC Arena, December the 7th. What else are you doing? There's $50 tickets available. We wanted to make sure it was accessible to everybody. Come along. It'll be a night of witchiness. Look, I'm not filming it anymore, so it could just be me screaming into the abyss. Who knows? We just all need to get together. I need your energy and you need mine. So really think about coming. Ask for me for Christmas. It's the perfect gift. All right, that's enough from me. Please enjoy more part 2 of the behind the scenes from the creatives of my stage show, Outgrown.
Hello, lovelies. It's Benjamin, the executive producer from Emsolation, back with part 2 of our special look behind the scenes on the creation of Em's brilliant Outgrown tour. I'll just remind you, these are audio-only episodes. There's nothing to see here if you've upgraded for the visual treats. It's a listen-only episode. And in this episode, we're going to chat to the man behind the music, Zeke, costume designer, Tamara, and set decorator and designer, Kit. Enjoy. Ezekiel Fenn, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Ben.
This feels so weird, doesn't it?
It's very strange.
I was like comfy with Anna, having an uproarious time with Lucy, but we're sitting with you. It's like, what are we doing, losers?
Yes. We're both kind of on the wrong side of the microphone.
I know. The best way to start is your career. What do you do creatively for anyone that's not aware?
Oh, God, I hate this question.
That's why it's the first one.
I'll work backwards, I guess. I
Get ready for a long list, peeps.
Jeez. What I do most of at the moment is, aside from working for M, is guitar teching.
Yep.
So I do guitar teching for Jimmy Barnes and Ice House.
Yes.
And then I'll do a bit of music production on the side for various, mainly like Melbourne artists.
Yep.
And then I'll do session musicianing for various Melbourne artists, either in studio or live. And then that's kind of it, really. I work part-time at a guitar store when I'm available.
Right. You're also an ex-genius from Apple.
I used to work at Apple, and
Yeah.
it was
And
horrifying.
the original meeting of M was a session musician, was it? Or music production?
Yeah, music production for the Rage and Rainbows tour.
Right.
So originally, M's friend Michael Painter was going to produce the music and record the songs that came out for that,
Yeah.
because they did 2 songs with her, Rage and Versions of Me. And then it was just a timing thing that meant it wouldn't work out for the Rage and Rainbows tour. So then I was working in the same studio as Painter.
Yep.
With my friend Michael Best, and Painter was just handballed, basically.
Best handball ever.
Yeah. So, and then that was 2018 or 2019.
Was that?
I think, yeah, Rage and Rainbows was a 2019
Yeah,
tour.
yeah.
So
Oh
it
my
was
God.
like Elio was coming into, M was coming into the studio with Elio in her arms.
Yeah.
Because he was just born.
Right. And now, obviously, everyone knows, if they know the show, they know you work on Emsolation doing audio production and also helping with the music and stuff. But the beginning of Outgrown, when did you first hear about it and how did Em approach you? Because I know there was talk, and we've laughed about this with Lucy, about Em and just a microphone on tour.
Yes.
And
As
then
the-
we got Outgrown.
As there always is. We talked about M and a microphone on tour. Originally, the concept was not vastly different, but quite different. We were talking about doing a tour that had a whole lot of LED walls and video content that M would interact with.
That's right.
And that is an incredible idea and is so terrifyingly expensive.
Yeah.
Not only to just get the show built, but then to also tour it.
Yeah.
That we really quickly were like, that is a great idea, and we'll put that on the back burner for another time.
Yes.
And then eventually pivoted to what it was today. So we really were talking about that, if not the end of last year, the very early like January and February this year.
And then I feel like the first thing that you two worked on was the sound of Outgrown, because there is a brand signature, like a musical piece that plays on all the little promos and actually features in the show.
Yes. Yeah, the Outgrown theme. Originally, when Em was doing Anomalous, the podcast, I wrote that theme for Anomalous.
Yeah, right.
Because the production company for that getting on board, we were thinking about doing it ourselves.
Yep.
And I think I was away in Warrnambool for a couple of days, and I just took some music gear with me and just composed a bunch of stuff to then show Em to just see if anything kind of hit. And she loved that theme. And so we kept it on the back burner. A different company ended up doing Anomalous, so we still had that on the back burner. And then when we started finally looking at music for Outgrown, we were like, hang on a second, there's something that we already really love that we have ready to go. And we pulled it up and listened to it, and you're like, oh, that's great.
It works so
that's what it
beautifully
is.
as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was really perfect. I mean, it was right. It was written with the same intention as it would have been, as if we had have used it in our Anomalous.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the Press Club, Anomalous, and the tour are all part of the same journey or part of the same group, really.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. It's just different little milestones, really, in the journey.
Fuck, amazing achievements when you sit back and think about all three. Fucking hell.
Yeah, incredible.
All right, so the other thing that we need to talk about is you're also, is the correct word tour manager? Is that right?
Technically production manager.
Production manager, okay.
Lucy was our wonderful tour manager.
Okay.
And
I should have remembered that from the other interview. Sorry, Liz.
It's one of those roles where, especially on something as small, as in small crew-wise as this was, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
On a big tour, the roles of the production manager and tour manager are very clearly defined. But for this, Lucy and I were, aside from Alex, our lighting designer, we're the only tour crew, quote unquote.
Yeah.
so that we're the only ones running it, which means that to do it well, we just helped each other with everything the whole time.
Yeah, you're all doing heavy lifting, aren't you?
Yeah, so we were really, I was handling the production predominantly and Lucy was handling the tour party predominantly, but there was a lot of overlap.
Yeah. And this is the first time Em's done the tour herself, basically. It's always been Frontier Touring taking on all of that. This is the first time she's brought it inside and, yeah?
Kind of. Not, no.
Okay. Strike that question.
No, not so. I mean, what we've done previously, so Rage and Rainbows as an example, we still had a tour manager and a production manager that were not working directly for Frontier. Like it's still a Frontier tour, either way. Frontier are the promoter.
Yeah, they're definitely still promoting.
But it's still a hand-picked crew that take care of each element.
Yep.
I think the difference for this one is this was a really small team and it was the inner circle, really.
Yeah.
So the previous crew we worked with have been incredible. But for this, and particularly with the way the show evolved from what it originally was to what it was 2 months before the tour to what it was when the tour was happening, it had to be a little team of people that Em really trusted, basically.
Yeah, especially because the show is such a mentally exhausting sort of endurance race because it's 2 hours almost of just performing. So, yeah, she needs to be in a comfort space when she comes on and off stage and while she travels as well, I suppose.
Yeah, and it made sense for her to have people that she, like as it always does, but particularly in this instance, when it was a small party, it had to be people she could kind of call any time of the day or night and not feel bad about.
Yeah.
And know that she could, in an exhausted state, say something and we would know what she meant, even if it wasn't exactly what she said.
Yeah.
So the benefit of it being Lucy, who's known her for longer than me, and me, were kind of those outcomes.
We haven't managed to get the lighting guy Alex on, but can you talk to me a little bit, because you're a friend of his, you actually helped bring him on board.
Yeah.
And the lighting is such an integral part of the show. So can you talk more about some of that?
Yeah. Alex, he's the lighting designer for Icehouse.
Right.
But he's been doing it professionally for longer than I've been alive.
Right.
He's got like quite a pedigree. And the reason we went with him is because unlike other lighting designers that we know and really love working with, he does a lot of comedy.
Right.
So I know him through Icehouse, but he does all of the big international comedians like Bill Bailey. He'll be going on tour with in Australia at the end of the year. He's currently in the UK. He left like 36 hours after the M show in Melbourne to go do Dawn French in the UK.
Oh my God.
So he's been doing comedians for decades. And so he obviously understands the physical craft of being a lighting designer, but also particularly how it pertains to a comedy show. And so the kind of the way the lighting design intersected for the show, it needed somebody with a foot in both camps.
Yeah.
It couldn't be just somebody who was always doing comedy or just somebody who was always doing music. They had to really marry.
Yeah.
And so, the conversation was basically where initially we wanted it to be video screens interacting with M. It was now, how can we have the light show interact with M?
Yeah.
And basically the way that came about was the script got written eventually. And
I want to push the shade button.
But more is it took a while for it to get to the point where we could then go to Alex and say, now we can make something of it.
This is pretty much what you're going to get.
Yes.
Work around that.
Yep. So Alex and I talked with Em really early on in the conversation, February, March this year, of these are kind of the loose concepts.
Yeah.
We want it to be interactive. We want it to be kind of visually striking, obviously. But then obviously working within the constraints of, while it's a scripted comedy show, it's also improvisational in nature because it's M.
Yeah.
So there had to be a level of fluidity in the design. Lighting is like, it's not my strong suit as in knowing how it works and how to do it. But especially after doing this tour, the complexity of having to program lighting is something that is it's very easy to be in awe of, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's not just pressing a button and then the things, happen.
No.
Although that's what you end up with, but you physically have to program. If you've got 48 fixtures, you have to say, when I press this button, I need those, I need 36 of those 48 fixtures to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
In this time frame. Sometimes it's instant, sometimes it's slow, So there's a lot of...
And it needs to keep going in the entire time the performer's on stage and interact. The way M interacted with the lighting was just so another part of the show, really.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So it is a really complex, in a way, game that you play as a lighting director to make the things do what you need them to do in the way they need to be done. So obviously for M, who has no idea about the technical side of things, and she's coming at it from a physical and immediate visual standpoint, and then communicating with Alex about, okay, well, we can do this, but here's where we're limited as far as like what can physically happen with lighting fixtures.
Yep.
It was a really cool marriage of the two of their, I guess, what would you say, competencies.
Yep.
In communication to then make what you saw. And really, like, we had a lot of really great shows on the tour, but Palais was the kind of the penultimate, like that was a 10 out of 10 show.
Because every theatre, do they have all the same sort of lighting?
Nope.
No. Okay. Right.
Nope.
That's a nightmare.
Yep.
So we're not travelling with lights at all, are we? We basically, you suck it and see, and what you turn up is what you get.
Virtually. I mean, as far as like planning for each venue, you receive the spec, like the technical specifications from the venue in advance. So you can look at it and be like, okay, they have 12 lead washers, they have 14 moving, this, that, and the other. And you kind of read through the list and then you look at the way they've got it laid out because I'll send you a plot.
Yep.
And then you look at that and you say, okay, we can make that work. It'll be slightly different to what we've planned for, but we can work with it. Or you look at it and you say, we can't make any of that work and we need to get external lighting in.
Oh my God. Did you have to do that?
Yes, a bunch of times. So then that's like, you look at the budget and you're like, okay,
what can we afford?
What can we afford? And it's like, at the end of the day, you could get in 10 grand worth of lighting into every show. And then it would look incredible.
Yeah.
But then you'd be spending 10 grand on lighting.
And we're not making
alone every show. So that was the most challenging aspect of doing, especially, to be honest, some of the regional theatres had some of the better lighting rigs.
Oh, really?
Because that council will just put, they've got one theatre, let's say, like in Launceston. So they put a lot of money and effort into making it look presentable so that these big things can come through.
I suppose the more they have, the more opportunities they have for shows to come, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And it behooves, the council or whoever runs the venue to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to rely on external production companies, which then the cost just gets put back to the venue anyways, often.
Yeah.
In one way or another. So that was a challenging part of it. And sometimes we did just have to suck it and the light show looked different.
Yeah.
Sometimes it looked better, well, not better, but it looked as good as or, better than what we had planned for.
Yep.
And then sometimes it was somewhere in the middle, kind of nebulous.
Let's talk about somewhere in the middle.
So,
there was an event that happened on the tour where the entire set was in a storage site in Two Wells and wasn't going to make it.
Yes.
We've already spoken to Lucy about this, but I want to get your side of it because you would have been the first point of contact. What was that like, Zeke?
It was, I didn't sleep really for 2 nights.
Poor thing.
So I guess from a time frame point of view, Lucy's probably said it, but I'll run you through how it all went down.
Yeah, please.
So we were in Bunbury on Sunday night in Western Australia, and Alex and I, at 11:45 at night, finished wrapping up the pallet.
Oh, right. So it's already ready to go, yeah.
So it's ready to go to get picked up on the Monday. And in advance of like actually getting to Bunbury, I had spoken with the company who books for, like, you can book through TNT directly, but it behooves you sometimes to book through like an external company like Transdirect.
Yep.
Because you can say to them, these are our specifications for what we need. What is the best option?
Yep.
And so the very lovely and helpful gentleman I spoke to was like, yep, we can definitely get that from Bunbury to Ballarat by Thursday. And I was like, excellent, great. So we had sort of, because we did have the moment of, and me the whole time it was like, is it better to just fly everything everywhere? And everyone has to lift more and everyone has to be, like, we need bigger cars and vans and stuff to get the gear around. And so it's really like, how do you designate costs, basically? You know, is it cheaper to fly everything and have everyone kind of breaking their back moving all this gear all the time? Or is it better that we can just put it all on a truck, you know, get to the airport 20 minutes later, you know, have 20 minutes of extra sleep.
Yeah.
You don't have to lift all of that stuff in and out.
And also you had the shows happening on weekends, so you had that sort of room to move.
Yeah, and because you have the room to move, you don't pay as much for freighting because you don't have to overnight everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, at that point we were over the halfway point in the tour and it was like, this will be fine, you know?
I've washed my hands, this is flying.
I washed my hands, it's fine. You know, when we got the stuff from Queensland to New South Wales the first time, it was there well in advance because it's over the, 10-hour drive.
Yeah.
The frustrating part about what ended up happening was, on the Monday when I checked the tracking and it hadn't been picked up, I had the thought of, I might have to fly to Perth.
Oh, God.
Get this stuff. So I was thinking about that sort of,
Monday.
When we were flying back from Perth initially.
Oh, my God.
So then it was just all right, I'll, just be patient and I'll check Tuesday. And then, just basically watching the tracking not do a whole lot. and then calling the company and then them being like, yeah, well, we've said we'll deliver it within this time frame and we will. And you being like, okay.
I'm going to trust you.
There's nothing else to do but to trust at that point. Because what are you going to do? Stress about it for a week straight.
You did.
Well, I didn't. And then by the time it was sort of like Thursday and there was no real update, I was like, okay, now this is kind of the worst case scenario coming to life.
Yeah. And then that mad scramble to sort of get everything replaced as well.
Yeah. So Lucy and I sent Lucy a message Thursday night and said, there is a small but real possibility the freight won't arrive to Ballarat. Well, it didn't arrive today, so there's a real possibility that because it didn't arrive today, it won't arrive tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's 50-50, genuinely, like it will or it won't, obviously, but it may just be a day late and will show up on time.
Yeah.
On time, a day late. Or it just won't show up and it could, at that point, it was like there could have been an accident. There could have been a truck breakdown. There could have been a personnel issue.
Flooding on the Nullarbor.
There's any number of things could have happened.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt and be like, okay, it's probably not negligence given, there's hundreds of trucks and hundreds of truck drivers in the industry moving stuff. But we just don't know. And no one's like, you're not going to call up TNT and they're going to be like, oh yeah, we had so-and-so had a mental breakdown and, had to like... you're just not going to get that kind of answer. So you got to be like, okay, it's not looking good. We don't know why and we can't control it.
Yeah.
So we started having to put out the call and be like,
what's it like when you have to make, you called M direct or do you send a text message? That's a phone call, isn't it?
That was a phone call.
Yeah.
And M knows and she would say like, as soon as you call, it's usually very important.
Yeah.
Because M does prefer to text and we would usually text. And so it was Friday morning and I spoke to Lucy and I said, hey, we're going to have to call her and tell her, let's do it together. Just because, not for like a good cop, bad cop, but it's like, I'll tell her the facts and then you tell her that it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a two-pronged approach.
So it's better to hear it from both of us, both of those things.
Yeah. And then at least she knows both of you are across it and working on it as well.
Yeah. And so we just called her and we were like, look, the words I said was, there's no easier way to say this, to which she has famously been saying she thought someone died.
Oh, God.
Which is valid.
But
it was like, there's no easy way to say it. Like, this set's not going to be there. And I need you to know that I'm saying this to you having already tried all of the options. So let's not get into that. like we just have to make a plan for what happens at the show tomorrow.
Yeah. And then, fuck, you guys did an amazing job bringing it all together. We've got the story from Lucy about estrogenia, which was fantastic.
That was my favourite thing in the whole world.
Can she please come back for the Arena Spectacular? Needs to be both of them, I feel.
Listen, we have many ideas, and that is one of them.
Yeah, good. I think that's what everyone wants to hear. All right, well, I think we've sort of covered everything we need to. Is there anything else that you want to spotlight from the tour that maybe we haven't talked about?
I mean, it was really great.
Oh, wasn't it?
It was very, no, not specifically, no. I mean, it was very fulfilling. It was really incredible to take the show. And the great thing about doing this show in particular, but any show 15 times, is that you get into such a rhythm and a routine.
Yeah.
That is really hard to, when you're touring in Australia, you don't get to do 15 dates in 2 months very often.
Yeah, and for anyone that was at the Palais show, which was sort of like the last show of the tour, to watch all of you up on that stage just working like a well-cogged machine and having the time of your fucking lives.
Yeah.
Wow, that was rewarding. I understand why so many people scrimp and save and run around the country to try and see as many shows as they can, because they're all different. Yeah, and you always know the last one is just going to be, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, absolutely. And the last one, it really was. I mean, like even again from the lighting point of view, when we rehearsed the show and programmed and designed it all, it was in Palais.
Yeah.
Like we did that knowing that we were going to end up back there. And that just meant that, there were every kind of facet of the show was the best it could be.
Yeah.
Because we put more effort into it, from as far as getting more crew involved. And as far as bringing in
more band members as
well. Yeah, more band members as well. But we kind of put a lot of eggs in that basket because it was the final show of the tour.
I gotta say,
which
it
helped.
was fucking hilarious watching you work between all the different instruments, because you were like, you had bongos in front of you, you had harp glisses and all sorts of stuff. I'm going, Jesus, Zeke, can you stop already?
It was. I mean, that was so fun for me. So if you don't know, we did the Palais show and we did the tour set, which is this sort of hour and a half thing that we've done 14 times previously around the country. And then we had an interval, which we hadn't been doing, and then did just a band set so Em could sing some of her favourite songs.
Yeah, it was like a little concert. It was fantastic.
It was like a mini concert. It was like, for us, it was like, the tour's done, let's have a bit of fun while we're in our hometown.
And we've got all these amazing lights and these beautiful people. Let's go.
Yeah. So we just got to, and then, we got to bring a big band, and the best part for me about that was being able to say, well, I know so many people who are much better at the instruments that I play, so let's bring them in.
Yeah.
And then I can just fill in the gaps and do little embellishments and stuff on a very big percussion rig.
It was so good.
It was a lot of fun.
There's more of that at the Arena Spectacular as well.
Me too. There won't be, but me too.
All right. And the last thing I want to ask that I've asked everyone is, what's something people probably don't know about working with Em that you really value or appreciate?
Not the only reason, but I love working with Em because there is it's nothing super specific, but I know that when we're in show mode, and you can, like, there's no filter and there's no kind of padding around delivering things.
Yep.
So Em's always very direct, and I really love that about working with her, because she will just tell you something, that's what she means.
Yeah.
But there's something about being on the road where you get really tired and you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you know that you can have a conversation and not have to worry about like presenting something, in a way that's not going to hurt each other's feelings or that's not going to be misguided at all. You can be really tired and emotional and just say the thing you need, and then she'll say the thing you need back to her. She'll say the thing she needs to say back to you, and then you have just a moment of like, okay, and then you walk out and you get on with it.
Yeah.
And that's really rare.
It's a beautiful mutual respect, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. And Em, Em, to her credit, and she will probably either never say this or she will talk herself up about it, but Em was lifting cases with us and packing away the set with us, and, putting heavy bags on the belt at the airport and doing all of that kind of stuff. Like, she was really one of the crew, quote unquote, for this one. Like she was really, like when she says she put her heart and soul into it, she means she was loading bags into the van at the airport.
She is not a diva.
She is a diva, but she is a working class diva.
Yes.
So
that is the perfect thing to end on. Thank you so much, Zeke.
Thanks, Ben. This was very bizarre.
It was bizarre. Let's never talk about it again. The reviews for M. Rossiano's groundbreaking Outgrown show are in. Express Mag said, Rossiano is a comedic force to be reckoned with. Anya Marcus wrote, this show is an honest blend of raw emotion, biting humour and a celebration of growth. Don't miss your final chance to see M. Rossiano's Outgrown. One show only, Saturday, December 7, Margaret Court Arena. Go to frontiertouring.com/M. Rossiano. All right, now we have costume designer Tamara Keane. Tamara, thanks for doing this. Give me a basic rundown of what you do as a creative for work.
Yeah, so basically I am a costume designer and costume maker, which means that a lot of the time I not only collaborate with a client or on a design or an idea, I am the one to make it as well. I started sewing when I was 13 years old and just loved it immediately. And then I also always loved dance and theatre and performance, so it kind of just all joined together and made sense to make costumes. The kind of people that I make for drag queens and singers and circus performers and anyone in kind of the performance world, but also I do specialty outfits for events like weddings and usually for someone that's looking for something a little bit different to the norm.
Do you remember when you first started working with them?
Yes, I do remember. I think it was for her Try Hard tour, which was in 2016 from memory or 2015. And I was, somewhat new to the game, but it was very exciting to be able to make for her. I don't know if anyone remembers the unicorn unitard, but that was something that I made.
Talk to me about Em's initial discussion with you for the Outgrown tour. What was the brief and how did you feel when it was first presented to you?
Yes, so she came to me in April, I believe it was, first of all just saying, are you free? And then when I said, yeah, tell me what you're thinking, she came straight back with, bam, this is my ideas, here's some inspiration. I want 3 looks, drag queen fantasy kind of thing, where with reveals on stage, starting something quite big and kind of overwhelming and then ending up in something simple. And she wanted all the looks to kind of flow together and all make sense. And also to match the set was a big thing as well. So I talked to Kit, the set designer, quite a bit about making sure that our designs were cohesive.
How detailed is the brief? Do you get sketches from Em or a mood board?
Yeah, so Em gave me a mood board, essentially, and then I drew up some sketches and she was like, yeah, that's great, that's perfect, that's exactly what I was thinking. So we went from there.
So how many pieces did you end up creating?
Oh, gosh, there was a few. There was 2 headpieces, the giant flower cape, the dress, the leotard, the witch's hat and robe, the floral catsuit, the boots, and the over jacket for the Shania Twain Floral Fantasy. So that's, 10 or 11 pieces?
All right, and which item are you most proud of?
Probably most proud of the leotard that she ends up in, but especially when I went to see the show, it was really nice to see it on stage and go and see how it flowed. I worked really hard on getting all the colours, all the tones of green to work nicely together, even though they're all different fabrics and everything. I had to do dyeing and painting and spraying and getting it all to work, and it was really nice to see it all on stage working as I had pictured.
And what's something people probably don't know about working with Em that you really value or appreciate?
Well, something that was really lovely about working with them was that she had her vision, but then she was just happy to let kind of the creative process flow and just trusted me and the way it would work. And yeah, that was just, I really appreciated that.
And of all the items you've created for Em in the past, including this tour, which one is your ultimate favourite, or they like babies and you can't pick one?
I don't like picking favourites, in general, really, with anything that I make, just because everything's so different all the time, which is the beauty of a costume. But I think it's just nice to reflect back on things that I made 8 years ago for her, and then also I really, really had a lot of fun making the Raging Rainbow's rainbow tulle dress that she wore at the Palais show. That was a pretty fun one. I've got a photo of that one stuck up on my wall. I just love the colours and the way that worked as a costume. But yeah, it's just nice looking back over the 8 years, really, and just seeing where my skills have gone since the start versus now. Yeah.
Any final thoughts or words for Em that you'd really like to say?
I just want to say congratulations on the creation of Outgrown and also the way that the audience has received it. I know that it was really important to you to have your message kind of come across in a certain way, and I think you've succeeded in that. I know how much work and thought and passion you put into it. So, yeah, congrats. And also thank you so much for having me as part of your team. It means a lot to be part of something like this and working creatively with other people. It was just a nice experience, so thank you. And also good luck with Mariah Carey Arena Spectacular, because that's going to be amazing and I can't wait to see it.
Perfect. Thanks so much for joining us, Tamara.
Thank you.
All right, our next guest is the amazing set designer, Kitty Palaskis. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be here.
Lovely to be here with you too. Now, I've said to everyone that basically there's so many great creatives that worked on bringing together Em's vision for Outgrown, and it's just really important, I think, that we get them all in and have a little chin wag and find out all about their process.
I love that idea.
So for you, creatively, what do you do? Explain that, your job for everybody.
Okay, I find this actually quite hard to do.
Yeah, I bet.
I do have an elevator pitch. I will try and give it now,
Okay.
see if I remember it. So I'm a designer and artist.
Yep.
I specialize in props, installations, illustrations, and digital content, all using handmade techniques. So I'm trying to celebrate handmade in everything that I do. I run a design studio called Kitty Palaskis Studio, very narcissistic.
You're allowed.
I guess so.
When you've got a name that good, it rolls off your tongue so beautifully.
Thank you.
Own it, I say.
I just am so indecisive. I was like, I have to just name it after myself. Otherwise, it'll have to change every 3 years. I'll have to rebrand. But I basically work in the commercial design industry. So I produce design work for clients in advertising, entertainment, publishing, and events.
Yep.
And I work with clients all over the world, which is really exciting.
And one of those clients happened to be Em Rossiano.
Why, yes.
Let's talk about initial contact. When did you first hear from Em?
So it was a few months out, I guess, from when rehearsals started.
Yep.
Love that immediately. It was via email, and I love that immediately because sometimes I get contacted like a week out from a performance.
Really?
And so, yes. And so this was months and months ahead, and I just went, oh, well, that's a great sign to start with. But you know, when you're kind of like reading through your emails, I often get really overwhelmed and I'm kind of skimming through things. I didn't really realize at first that it was like Em Rossiano.
Oh, so you'd had contact with her as a...
No, she just she emailed me and said that, oh, I was wondering whether you'd like to chat about designing the set for my upcoming tour. And I just read it really quickly because I'm usually doing like 7 million things at once because I can't focus on things.
Creative, everyone.
ADHD,
Creative.
maybe. And then I kind of read it again and went, oh my gosh, this is a really amazing opportunity. How exciting.
Yeah.
And then I immediately, because I am me, started spiraling into like self-doubt and imposter syndrome immediately and went, oh gosh, like, why would you want me? I think maybe she meant to contact someone else. Another set designer called Kyria Palaskis.
Oh, don't we hate our brains when they do things like that to us?
And then I guess like as I always do, I just started spiraling and being like, okay, oh my gosh, okay, like it's a national tour, and then thinking so far ahead, jumping like 7,000 steps ahead before I'd even heard the brief.
Oh my God.
Because that's what I'm like.
I love that.
And anyway, it ended up being that after I came into the office for a meeting, I kind of instantly felt, oh, she understands the way my brain works, because I think I'm actually also neurodivergent, just undiagnosed.
So did you have a discovery moment, or were you suspicious earlier?
I've been suspicious for a while. One of my close friends who used to work with me is exactly the same as me in every single way, and she got diagnosed as an adult 2 years ago, and so it can't not be anything else. We're
1 +
exactly
1
the same.
= happiness.
Yeah. And so I just hadn't got around to official diagnosis yet, but one of the initial things I noticed about Em was that she had said it about me.
Yeah,
and I was
right.
like, I think you actually see me. Like, cool. I think it's going to be really easy to work together, because usually I kind of bump up against clients that maybe don't understand a neurodivergent way of thinking, or want things to be done in a certain structure that doesn't work with like the way that my brain works.
Yeah.
But I instantly knew that that wasn't going to be the case here.
Also, some corporates just want creativity but don't even appreciate what that process is or how it works.
Or
too.
may not even be creative thinkers themselves, which makes it really hard when they're making like top level creative decisions.
Yeah, right.
But I knew it wasn't going to be the case here.
So first approach and the pitch, did Ems share a Pinterest with you, or what was the pitch? That
It was literally one reference photo, which I thought was so superbly chosen, because it basically told me everything about what her vision was. There was giant flowers. There was someone in a really elaborate prom dress kind of thing. And the way she kind of described what her show was going to be about, I instantly, I guess, was on the same page about, well, I hoped I was, about what the vision was. And I think one thing I'm really well known for is like making giant props, so giant versions of things. It's actually one of my weird niche passions that I love so much. You know how people like are really into miniature versions of things? I'm really into like novelty-sized giant versions of things.
Yeah, I love them too.
Yeah.
And you've got examples of that on your website as well. I distinctly remember we were looking through your website before we approached you, and I got the vibe that all of us were like, wow, this girl's really good. I hope she says yes. Because there's a whole maybe bias that we have as well, as like, this person's so creative. What if they don't want to do the creative that we want? Like,
So I love flowers. It's one of my biggest inspirations in my creative life. I'm always bringing them up in some way, whether it be like an illustration or a prop or something. So when she said, yeah, part of it is I want, giant flowers, so it looks like you're kind of inside my brain, this giant world of color.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, you had me at giant flowers. You had me at giant.
dream gig.
Yeah, basically.
So let's talk about the giant flowers, because they are such a key part of, it's like the lighting, the music, everything has its own role, but the forest that you create on stage is amazing. How long and how difficult is it to bring together stuff like that and create it all? Because you've got to have it to, just so people realise, all of it needed to be packed down into suitcases that can fit on a plane or in a storage cage on a truck. And it's got to get all around the country. It needs to fold up into small pieces and then get on stage and look immaculate. So there's all that logistic to factor in as well.
Well, a lot of what I do, I've realised over the years, is actually problem solving.
Right.
So obviously there is a creative element, but we are working a lot of the time with constraints, because every job has different constraints, and this one had a lot of really, really unique constraints, and that can terrify some people, but I love it because I think I'm a really good problem solver, and I'm really good logistically at things, which is a set of skills I didn't realize I would have to have when I started my career. I just thought, I'll just be creative, that's all I need. But actually, no, you have to be really good at logistics and problem solving. So yes, it had to be giant and oversized. So already you're looking at things which are larger than life. They take up a lot of space.
Yeah, they do.
Things had to pack down so that they could be easily transported by passengers on a plane. It wasn't like they were going on their own special freight private jet, although that would be cool.
Oh my God, wouldn't it?
And I always, like, one of my hacks is I am like a Tetris guru at traveling with giant props and stage set pieces on the plane with me.
Yeah, if you're going to specialize in large things, being able to transport them to places is going to be one of your key issues.
And also, you know, they had to be really easy to set up because I wasn't going to be there obviously at every venue. So the people that were responsible for that, Zeke and Lucy primarily, and the rest of the band, actually, it turned out, would need to know how to do it without any trouble at all. So everything had to be really sort of set and forget and not take up too much time because obviously there's a lot of pre-setup that goes into like putting on a production. Yeah. And you can't take hours making the set because everyone else has to do their things and set up the instruments and do the lighting.
And also
and
at the end of the show, you've got to take it all out and get it out of the theatre so that the next whatever event can be there.
Also that you can go to bed because often these nights are very late. So I kind of looked at it like, okay, let's treat this like it's an IKEA furniture set and we'll just make everything in its own component that can be detached, folded down and packed away. So I went to Thailand quite soon after I got commissioned to do this, and I spent a lot of my time there actually trying to source different kinds of materials because there's a lot of things. They actually make a lot of giant flowers randomly in Thailand. I'm half Thai. Maybe it's in my DNA. I don't know.
She knew.
And so they have a lot of materials there, like this PVC pipe, for instance, that is moldable and bendable and holds its structure and yet is super sturdy and strong. So it's like a giant thick piece of wire, but it's made out of PVC and it's really lightweight.
It is so clever.
What a cool thing. And I couldn't find it anywhere here. So I actually sourced the suppliers over in Thailand and a lot of the fabric that I used to create the actual petals of the flowers and had them shipped over because I just couldn't get it here.
Yeah, that's so good though.
So I had to be very, very prepared in advance because once the stuff arrived, I basically only had like a 2-week window to make everything.
Oh my God.
Because we had to wait for it to kind of come from Thailand.
And
I had to
hope that when it gets there, this is going to work as well.
Yeah. So a lot of what I do actually happens in the weeks and months leading up to the actual date of production. The production part itself is only a small component of the overall planning. So I guess through experience and through just doing this for years and making heaps of mistakes, you kind of like you can conjure up everything inside your head and picture it all. You could even down to like how you're going to construct something. I can work it out in my head beforehand. So I have a pretty good idea of how exactly everything's going to go. So when I finally hit that 2-week production period at the end, it's like everything just rolls out because I've planned it in my head beforehand.
Perfection.
But I feel like that does take I think it's taken 15 years for me to be able to do that.
Well, that's the benefit of experience, isn't it? You got to make all those mistakes in order to get to the point where you go, this is not going to be a mistake anymore.
So usually in terms of like, for example, the flower petals themselves, usually I would make my props out of paper and cardboard. That's something I'm quite known for, is that kind of sustainable approach to design. But obviously this had to last for 18 shows, many shows. And so paper was just not going to cut it. Yeah. Paper would not even survive one show.
Right.
So I ended up using a material called Tyvek, which is like, those tough bags, like mailing tough bags.
Yeah.
It's soft and pliable. You can actually paint on it like paper. You can cut it. You can sew it. So you can glue it with a glue stick, which I did.
You've got all the answers.
So it's actually just such a great material to use for something like a fake flower because it mimics the petals. If you wire it up, you can mold the petals into all different shapes. Yeah. And then you can just fold it all up and pack it down into like little tight things.
Honestly, no one can see what it looks like, but when it's all packed up into its individual bags and boxes, it is so insane how little there is that then becomes this forest on stage. It's so impressive.
It was really exciting when I first packed it all down and it fit into 2 suitcases, 1 tent bag and 1 cardboard box.
Right?
And I was like, Tetris queen.
Exactly. All right, so there was the issue that we've spoken to Zeke and Lucy about the period where the whole set was stuck in a 2-well storage cage and you got a last minute call to say, we need the set again.
Yeah.
What was that like to get that call? Was it on the Friday before or the Thursday before?
I think it was Friday. I want to say it was Friday.
Yeah, because the show was on the Saturday, I think. You had a really tight turnaround.
A bit of pre-context.
Mm-hmm.
I had changed my number the week before, my phone number.
Shit.
Because I was getting too many spam calls and I was like, I've had it with this. So I changed my number and then I messaged everyone, including Lucy, saying, this is my new number. Please change it. Side note, my parents thought that I was a scammer and did for like a month after that. They still might not trust that it's actually my number. But after that happened, my phone provider, which shall not be named on a national podcast, messed up, surprise, surprise, and I had to change it again.
Oh my
God.
God.
I was so annoyed that I had just spent hours telling everyone my new number that I just thought, not telling anyone. So Lucy had the wrong number.
Oh my God, I
And
didn't
so
know that.
on the day, she was frantically trying to get in touch with me. Also, while they were trying to get in touch with me, I was on a plane flying back from Sydney, so I didn't know anything. So she's trying to get in touch with me. She can't reach either of my numbers because I hadn't yet told her what my other new number was. When the plane landed, I was just checking my Instagram and I had a DM from M that's what basically said, the set is missing. Lucy's been trying to contact you. It's an emergency.
Thank fuck for DMs.
I know. And I just went into like obviously a spiral. We've talked about this just before. I spiral. But I was in that mode where you're waiting to get off the plane and you can't call immediately because like, you know that business guy that's always like on the plane having some loud conversation about some business drama when everyone's just waiting to get off and everyone's like, oh God, can you just shut up? Like, okay, we know you're important. Gosh, like just we understand. You got to go to the meeting. You got to make those decisions. I didn't want to have to be that guy.
Okay.
So I was like twiddling my thumbs just being like, oh my God, I need to get off. I need to call Lucy now. This is obviously an emergency. The gig's on the weekend, like the show's on the weekend. We have to fix this. So in the time between me reading the DM and then me getting to the baggage carousel, which is where I thought it was like appropriate for me to actually call Lucy, I had come up with this entire plan, like emergency plan in my head and had gone through the inventory in my head of every single material that I had in the studio already that I could use to make these like a replacement set if need be. And then every single place I knew that I could source materials on a weekend in order to be able to like buy them quickly. Because usually I source from like my wholesale suppliers, but in this instance there wouldn't be time. So I had to shop only from like retail places. So I'd come up with this whole plan and I just thought, I'm not calling her until I have like a plan in place.
Oh my God,
and
I love you.
I called her and I feel like she barely even like said hello and I was like, I know what I'm doing. These are all things that I can do. And so luckily they were able to find, I'm sure Lucy's mentioned this, but they were able to find some rental giant flowers on Marketplace that they could replace with. And then I was able to then create some large scale hanging cutouts of which we had created maybe like 30 backdrops. Yeah, 36 pieces or something or 30 pieces of before. I knew that I had all the colourful paper, like large scale colourful paper at the studio that I could use, and I ended up going to like a storage garage, which is my little hack, and buying like a bike box. Because it's a large surface area of cardboard. Yeah. So when you need cardboard in a bind, that's like a large scale piece. So you can go buy a bike box from like a storage place.
Brilliant.
So I was able to do that. Luckily, I thought, okay, I think I can get that done. So I literally went home in the Uber. I dropped my suitcase off. My cats were like, feed me. And I was like, nope, I don't have time for that. Sorry. Ran back to the studio.
Creative emergency.
Yeah, this is a flower emergency, as Lucy said in her email to me when she was trying to get in touch with me. So I ran to the studio and then I happened to be texting Ash, who is my beautiful studio buddy. We share a studio together. She's a fashion designer. And I was like, oh my God, you'll never believe what's happened. Oh my God, the set's missing. I hadn't really allowed myself to think about the full brevity of what that meant because I was just like, we just have to do what we can to get a set happening for this weekend. I didn't want to think about like all that work that's gone in, all the stress that Em must be feeling, or any of the crew. What it might mean if the set was never recovered. How are we going to bounce back from that? I was like, you can't think about that like right now.
Nightmare fuel.
nightmare fuel. You just have to do what you have to do, like one step at a time. And so I mentioned it to her and she's like, I've literally just started eating lunch. I'm coming back.
Oh, bless her.
And she like dropped her lunch. She literally just got back from the studio. She dropped her lunch. She turned around, she came back. And then she spent the next like 9 hours with me and we turbocharged, created like a sort of condensed flower hanging kind of set backdrop replacement.
Yep.
And it was ready to go the next morning.
Thank Christ.
When Zeke and Lucy came to pick it up. And
Thank God it was just a trip to Ballarat as well. It wasn't like interstate or anything because that would have lessened the prep time.
I know. There were so many factors that could have made it more nightmarish. But I can't even imagine like the stress. But one thing that I think was so great is that like Em told everyone online about it. She told all of her followers and the community got behind her. And I feel like that just bringing people along for the ride when you are in a crisis situation like that actually just garners more support.
Yeah.
And it became this really like awesome feat that of you know, like amazingness that everyone pulled together.
Yeah, I
and
love that about her community.
yeah, obviously no one would ever, I don't think, like begrudge anyone on the crew for like not having a set if it had to be the case. But everyone was just had her back, and I think that was really rad.
Cute posts on the Emsolation Facebook page of, I live in Two Wells. I'm just up the road from that place. Do you want me to go and see if I can get in? And like oh my God, they're willing to do crimes.
Yeah, I feel like they will hunt down the perpetrator if that is ever the case. But it was only after Zeke had put everything in the truck and closed the door that I was just like, oh my God. And then I kind of started to feel like this gut-wrenching, like, where is the set? Where is it? Where is it? And every day me and Ash would be like, where is it? Like, where are the updates?
Yeah.
But thankfully, as we all know, it was recovered.
Thank God, yeah. And it looked so beautiful on stage at the Palais for that final show before the big one in December. And let's talk about that final show because you, Anna, Piper Scott and me never got to see the tour until that final show, as it were. So what was it like to be in the audience, have the stage set up and see your work in those lights and as part of that whole show?
Well, so I had seen the dress rehearsal.
Yep.
But that was a really stressful day for me because it was my first time trialing all my pieces like on the actual stage, and we had a few hiccups of things that I needed to go back and rejig before the actual shows began. So that day I was just really focused on like, okay, checklist of all the things I need to do. And Em had run through her songs, so I'd got to hear some of those, but not the stand-up part of the performance.
Yeah.
So I had an idea of what it might be like, but nothing like it actually was.
Experience.
Oh my gosh. When I walked down into the theatre and saw our stuff, like, so I went with the two gals that helped me create the set.
The emergency weekend.
I brought them with me because I thought it might be really nice for them to see their work as well. And it was like this really great sort of celebration moment because as creatives, we don't really get to celebrate our achievements that much. I usually just jump onto the next thing and start stressing about where the next paycheck's going to come from or whatever. So I thought, okay, we're going to celebrate it. We're going to have dinner beforehand and just really make a night out of it.
Love that.
And I was really looking forward to seeing the performance because I guess I am currently going through like my own discovery journey of my own neurodivergency, and my partner has actually just been through it too. So I was like, this is going to be really poignant. And I'm also like nearing perimenopause phase myself. So I was like, cool, let's do this. But when I walked down I want to say aisle, but it wasn't a wedding. When I walked down into the theatre and saw my stuff on stage, I like teared up. I just felt so proud. And the way that the lights were, so the lighting, oh my gosh, stunning.
Alex did such a good job.
That bit where like all of a sudden all the psychedelic lights come on and they start spiraling, and the way that they reflected off the flower petals, I was just like, oh, this is pure magic. Love it.
It's a visual orgy.
Oh, it's a feast. It's a smorgasbord. So I just felt so proud. And then obviously the show began and it was like an absolute extravaganza.
Yeah.
I kept looking over at the two girls that I was with and they were just like in tears, laughing and like crying. The girl in front of me was crying. It was just hilarious and so poignant, and it was just it was so entertaining.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Because I'd never actually seen Em perform.
Oh, wow. So that was your first time. Wow, what an introduction.
Oh, and it was so great. And I just it was so awesome to just see what I know has been such hard work from her and everybody involved come together like that.
Yeah.
And how I guess the crowd was responding. They were going wild.
There's something insane about being in a room of 3,000 people just on that kind of high as well. And all the emotions. What I love about Em when she does a show is the number of times I've cried watching her on stage. I'm going to get teary now.
Mm-hmm.
She just is so good at communicating to people and connecting with them.
Oh, absolutely. And you can tell it's coming from her soul.
Yeah.
And that this show itself was like, it's like she's bearing her soul to everyone and sharing it. And to see everybody like absorb that and take it in and sort of give it back through their, I guess, like in the moment feedback of screaming and laughing and cheering.
Yeah.
How magical.
So magical.
It wasn't just like any other, you go to a show and it's like, cool, that was awesome. It felt like it was a really unique, special experience that I don't think happens regularly.
I know. That's why everyone should go December 7 at Mariah Carey Arena.
That's actually my birthday. So if you want to give me a birthday present, you should buy yourself a ticket.
We'll see you there. The last thing I want to ask you is what's something that people probably don't know about working with Em that you really valued or appreciated?
Okay, there was actually a few things, but one of the first things I noticed was how hard she works.
Yeah.
And how much she literally like cares so much about every single aspect of that production. So a lot of people that I've worked with take a sort of like, they kind of take a sort of back seat once they've come to you and they've commissioned you, and then it's just a job.
Yeah, right.
But it didn't feel like that. Obviously, this is like her passion, and this show itself is her passion and soul. So also when we did the dress rehearsal, she was really sick.
Yeah, that's right.
And she powered through that, and like I could tell that she was really fatigued, but she just had this like professionalism and this hard work ethic that I really appreciated, like this push through ability. I don't think that's a word, but it is now. And I was like, that is so inspiring. And also she really knew exactly what she wanted, and she didn't hesitate to tell me what she liked, what she didn't like. She came on stage during that rehearsal and said, I want the flowers to be here and there, and like it readjusted things to suit her vision. And I really appreciate that. That's really refreshing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can sense that maybe like a client wants something to change, but they're not confident to say or
yeah, right.
I don't mind it if people come to me and give me feedback. But like, let's be direct about it. And it was so inspiring that she had this vision in her head, and she was like, this is what I need to happen to make my vision come to life. And that was really cool to see. It's like, I don't really work with a lot of fellow creatives. I usually work with, like I said, commercial clients that may not be creative thinkers or have a creative brief and I'm the one executing it. But this really felt like it was like two creatives working side by side.
I love that.
So it felt more like a collaboration.
Oh, here's to more of that.
I know. And also, I guess the third thing was like, she really just let me be my like full creative self. She didn't she didn't really dictate, like she told me what her brief was and she described to me the feeling of what the show was for her.
Yeah. And
that was my brief. But she didn't go, I need, like 8 purple flowers. They need to have pink bits in them. They need to have white centers. Like she didn't micromanage. She let my creativity come out. And I think that's probably the most fruitful environment for someone to create their best work, is when you are trusted to obviously fulfill the brief, but then also be your real creative self.
Yeah, yeah. 100%.
And she didn't try to diminish my real creative self in any way. So I really loved that.
I love that.
Loved that. It was so fun.
Kit, thank you so much for coming in and chatting with me and being a part of this as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I love chatting to you. I could chat all day. And also just thanks so much, Em, for commissioning me to be part of this amazing performance. I feel so proud. It's definitely a career highlight.
I feel like if you decided to make those stand-up flowers and sell them, there would be a lot of people that would be willing to place that order.
Have thought about it, actually.
Ching, ching. Thanks, Kit.
Thank you.
Emsolation with M. Rusciano is recorded at Down the Hill Studios, hosted by M. Rusciano with Michael Lucas, executive produced by Benjamin Wasley, produced by M. Rusciano, edited by Ezekiel Fenn, with videos by James Henderson, socials by Benjamin Wasley, M. Rusciano and Marcella Rusciano Barrow, with assistance from Jem Evans and Isabella Hines. You'll find links to get more Emsolation on Instagram at Emsolation Podcast. And thanks for listening. We can't wait to chat with you again soon.